KVGB. Focus on Stafford County today. Joining us from the south, Stafford County Economic Development Director, Carolyn Dunn. Oh, thank you. Ashley Bevan is also in, Program Director for Stafford County Devo. We didn't have our huddle that much. That's my fault.
Sorry, I'm passing Steve notes to tell him which order I want to talk about what things.
Okay, so that arrow goes to there.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay. All right, we're ready to go here. Glad to have you guys in the building today. Thanks a lot. And I'm sure Maddie took care of you up front and everything like that, right?
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, she is. To everyone else except me. So, just kidding, Maddie. I don't want to come down here. Okay, guys, let's get to it.
Well,
I'm going to go to arrow number 2 here.
There we go.
Tell me about these presentations that you've been giving to high school senior classes in the area. That's really neat.
May's the season for graduations, and we do a lot in our office to try to connect with the young adults in our area. And so we've kind of developed a tradition of making a presentation to the local high school graduations. And I thought, every time I've given this speech, I've had people come up afterwards and say, we liked that message, or we didn't know this or that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to tell a little bit about that on the radio too. I think that, So what we do is we give a book called The Butterfly Effect. It was written by an author that I heard at a conference probably 10 or 12 years ago. And I sometimes reflect on the idea that, all the years of school I have had and the conferences I've gone to and everything, I've listened to a lot of different people give a speech. And there aren't very many that I could remember some years later. But this guy's message has always stuck with me. And it centers around the idea that all of us have an impact on the world, whether we realize it or not. There's always a ripple effect that's in play. Always. And, so like I'll I guess give one example of that just to kind of explain the concept a little bit. But he uses an example of an individual in the Civil War who was an everyday person, a school teacher from Maine, whose determination had a very big impact on a particular battle in the Civil War, Battle of Gettysburg, if I'm not mistaken, which in turn had to really turn the tides in how the Civil War turned out. So had an impact on the outcome of the Civil War. The Civil War obviously influenced the stature of the United States of America. Set the stage for us being probably the only country that was populous, strong enough economically, populous enough, strong enough economically, whatever, to be as involved in World War II as we were, to fight not only the battle in Europe, but also in the South Pacific and win. Obviously, that had a big impact on the world and the freedom we all enjoy today. We could trace that back to an individual, a school teacher in Maine, who had a lot of influence on that. So I think it's a really powerful message about how we all can have a big impact, and we can choose for that to be as, we can make choices in a deliberate way to make that a positive thing as opposed to a negative thing. So that's the gift we give. But I then try to kind of think about, well, what does that mean here in Stafford County? We all invest in youth. We do. We could argue that they are literally our most valuable asset. And I tried to put this in another perspective again that students could relate to. The cost of their education, we calculated, when you consider everything, classroom instruction, busing, lunches, everything. The cost of that education is around $7,500 a year. So after completing 13 years of school, that value or the cost of their public education is somewhere around $97,500. The average house in Stafford County is valued at $76,000. So it's entirely possible that many of those students have an education that's more valuable than the home they grew up in. We, the public, have invested in them. And I try to put it in one other way. Housing. Another way of looking at it is the annual investment in education. The value of new home construction in Stafford County over the past several years has been right around $2 million a year, which is less than the annual school budget for each of the 3 school districts. So again, we're literally investing more in youth than we are other fixed assets in our area. So the reason I try to make those points is that, they have an impact. We care about them. How can they make deliberate choices in the future that could bring some of that back to our community? One of the challenges, of course, we talk about this all the time here, that we face in rural economic development is the declining population. So Stafford County lost 10% of its population from the 2000 to 2010 period, made us eligible for several particular, programs, both state and federal wide, because that's how they defined, a critical decline in population. But if you do the math, that's only about 40 people a year, somewhere in that neighborhood of 14 people per school district. If you consider most people get married and have a couple of kids, it's really only, maybe 4 kids per class additional that chooses to stay in our county over time that would reverse that. That's all it would take to reverse that trend. So anyway, yeah, one of those choices that they have in going forward is that, they'll choose where to live. And it's one of those choices that, coming back to that concept of the ripple effect, no matter where you choose, it will have a ripple effect and it will have an impact on others besides yourself. And we try to convey that idea that making the choice to live here is a valued one. I guess I might kind of note here too that I have some data from the Center for Rural Entrepreneurship that has surveyed students in rural schools throughout the Midwest. And that data will show that when asked, a majority of rural students will say they can envision themselves living in their hometown when they grow up. But they'll also say that they're hearing the message from adults that to be successful, they should go somewhere else. So I say, if no other time than today, I want you to hear the message that we would welcome you, whether that means getting an education elsewhere and returning, finding your calling here without moving away, gaining work experience elsewhere and returning, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be next year. It could be, 5, 10 years from now. But we would welcome you back. And then I try to give them some ideas about what kind of possibilities there are, because I sometimes hear that idea that, there's nothing to do here if you're not a farmer or a teacher, and those are highly valued professions. But here are some other professional level jobs that we need. For one, we have one physician in the county, and he's going to want to retire not too far in the future. Same with the one dentist. We outsource services. I am aware of a lot of things that kind of relate to legal work. So attorney, appraiser. We do a lot of abstract work outside of the county. IT consultant. Some of the things that have come up recently, I needed a survey done for a piece of property that economic development is acquiring. Had to go to either Hutch or Great Bend for that. And a lot of these things that if someone chose to live, in any area, whether that is a town like Stafford, St. John, Macksville, or, the business comes to you if you have developed a reputation and a core competency in that. I guess one example I could offer in that area too, I'm familiar with an attorney in Heston. And he's developed kind of an expertise in estate planning. And I think people come from all over the state to work with him because he's developed a reputation for that. And I think that kind of thing can apply in a lot of different careers. We are working with an architect right now, a home-based business in Hutchinson. And that could be anywhere. That architect needs an engineer to stamp his plans before he can finalize the work and get it back to me. We're running into a bottleneck right now because he can't get the attention of the engineers that he needs. If he would like to work with a small firm that likes to work with other small firms, and he can't find one west of Wichita, so he says. So whether there's literally no other engineers or not, I think the message is that there are those kinds of opportunities if you're willing to cultivate them. So we try to light a little inspiration there. So a little more of that is all it takes. It doesn't, it doesn't take, the savior of a corporation to come in with 100 jobs to turn it around. If we can get a little more of that entrepreneurial thinking and how you can develop a career instead of just take a job, there's unlimited potential.
You mentioned something about when you got started that is there stigma that kids have in high school? Say, well, if I don't leave, everyone's going to look at me like, I'm unsuccessful. Everyone else is going away.
Apparently there is, at least some. And I think that's, I would like to think that's also evolving. I know that there's a lot of work in some of the school programs to try to reverse that. So, it may not be holding true over time. I did do a survey of St. John students in particular within the last 5 years. It wasn't within the last 2. And we were picking up on the same sentiment from students at that time, that they were hearing the message that
if I don't leave, then I'm going to be looked at as a failure before I even get started. That's
so. Again, I don't think everyone thinks that way, but there's enough of that out there that I want to keep beating the drum that there's another way to look at it.
So every student, every graduate gets one of these books in Stafford County?
Mm-hmm. They do.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh, at least 3 years, maybe 4, I think.
Well, that's a great idea because, I don't remember my graduation, let alone who the speaker was. But if maybe they don't pick it up right away. Maybe they pick it up next year. Maybe they.
Right. I hope so. I hope they actually take the time to look to read through the book. We try to personalize them with some messages of those that we've had more interaction with too, and I've had some of them come back and make comment on it. So I know a few of them are reading it. I hope they all do because it's an inspirational, just quick read. So it's that season. We all have to, I think, reflect on all of the potential that there is in the future.
I like the way, and I know that with all the debate going on with school funding and things like that, sometimes the word investment isn't used as much as it is the cost of education. Yeah. Anyway, you're not going to jump into that, huh? Okay. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more. It's Focus on Stafford County here on 1590 KVGB.
Hi, it's Phil Grossart inviting you to stop by Abby's Best Buy Carpet Outlet, 281 Bypass at Broadway before 5 tonight. You might be the next instant finalist when we give away the 2016 GMC Terrain in August. And hey, here's Michelle. What's going on today at Abby's?
Hi, Phil. Today we have a store-wide clearance sale going on. Carpet's going to be up to 60% off retail. We have laminate flooring as low as 99 cents a square foot. Ceramic tile as low as 69 cents a square foot. We have the new waterproof cork flooring. It's soft, it's warmer, and completely waterproof. Only $4.29 a square foot. We offer lowest prices and largest selection guaranteed. I guarantee you walk in here, you'll be surprised to see our inventory.
Thanks, Michelle. So stop by before 5 tonight at Abby's Best Buy Carpet Outlet, 281 Bypass at Broadway, and get registered for the Terrain on the Plains giveaway. Presented by Northview Nursery and Landscape, Farmers Bank and Trust, Duna GMC, and Eagle Radio.
Isn't it great when things are even better than you expect? Like checking into a hotel and getting an upgrade. Or everyone's favorite, the baker's dozen. Introducing top-tier detergent gasoline at Cenex. With 2.5 times more detergent than regular fuel, it cleans your engine as it runs. For less buildup, less maintenance, and more worry-free miles on the go. All at no extra cost. Cenex top-tier detergent gasoline. Now at every Cenex station. Cenex is a brand of CHS.
Depression or anxiety are real, common, and treatable, and recovery is possible. The Center for Counseling and Consultation invites you to take time to think about mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the Center understands the importance of addressing the symptoms early, identifying potential underlying illness, and planning the right course of action toward overall health. The Center for Counseling and Consultation, west of Broadway and Patton Road in Great Bend, where everyone matters.
Welcome back. Focus on Stafford County today. Carolyn Dunn and Ashley Bevan with us today. Before we move on to something else, how important are internships and things like that for
I think it's
helping
a great way for people to get to know each other, and it may lead to, job opportunities over time. Ashley was an intern in the Economic Development Office, was it 2 summers ago? Mm-hmm. And I had no idea that there would be an opening that would become available at the time. But it was because that we had that kind of interaction that we, it made a good fit for a person coming on in a more permanent way. I think a lot of other employers could have the same benefit of, finding the next wave of talent through offering internships that give both the young person a chance to understand the business a little more, but also that employer to kind of have a test drive too, I guess, as to whether or not it's a fit. It's just a really good way to promote our community in general. And the more people that offer them, I think it's a good thing in the big scheme, the big picture.
Stafford County Hospital grant, and whoever wants to talk about that, I know you're both involved with that. Ashley, you're on a roll. Go ahead.
I haven't even talked yet this morning, but sure. So last Friday, Carolyn and I came up to the Center for Counseling and joined in their Mental Health Awareness Day. And there was kind of a meet and greet with some people from the Sunflower Health Plan and the Centene Foundation that awarded the Center for Counseling a grant that we actually also applied for last year, not knowing that Pawnee County Health Department and the center were applying for this grant. But anyways, Carolyn accepted a $2,500 grant for Stafford County Hospital for Todd Taylor to implement telemedicine mental health services at the hospital.
Yeah, I think it was a great example of maybe there's more than one way to skin a cat sometimes. The application that we submitted wasn't the winning application, but when we realized that there was someone right here doing a lot of the same work, we said, hey, do you think there's a way we could work together to kind of expand some of the work in Stafford County and maybe address some of the needs that we had identified? So we know that there's not enough mental health just coverage offered in our area, and this grant is going to provide some of the hardware, really, some of the software and hardware, the tools needed to implement telemedicine. So someone can have more options to be able to talk with someone when they need to, without having to drive a long ways to do it. And the other thing with the telemedicine is that it offers a little more anonymity than traditional mental health consultations. So in a rural area, sometimes people hesitate to get help when they need it, in part because they don't want their neighbors to know. Yeah. And if they can do it in a way that is, again, more private, more anonymous, with someone from that's helping them from afar, we think that can be beneficial. And so this grant will help do that.
Yeah, and I think last summer when we had started putting together this RFP, I think a lot of our initial thoughts stemmed from our Live Well Stafford County work. Looking at our county health rankings last year, Stafford County was tied with 2 other counties in the state for the highest use of tobacco within the county. Mm-hmm. And so we also tied in tobacco cessation programs with our RFP. And of course, then telemedicine services were also, we did have that tied into our RFP, mm-hmm. but
some of that even ties in with other types of substance abuse, and we could even make the case that law enforcement is mm-hmm. really integral to addressing these problems, because some of the substance abuse kind of goes into the things that illegal drug use and things that law enforcement gets involved in. So, we tend to have a pretty broad view of what constitutes economic development, and the idea that you've got to be physically and emotionally well to thrive in all areas, including the economic side of things, is part of what gets us involved in this.
Yeah, you mentioned a good thing, though. That's one of the great things about living in a small town is because it's a small town.
Well,
but then the other thing is everybody knows what everyone else is doing sometimes, and you bring up a very good point with this telemedicine thing, more anonymity that is available with this.
Exactly. You know, one of the points that I brought up when we were accepting that grant was that, you know, they had made comments before on suicide and how better mental health services can help prevent that. And I said, you know, I was reflecting on this just the other day, even since that grant application was submitted last, whatever that was.
September, I think it
August,
was.
something like that. Stafford County has had a suicide, an attempted suicide, and a murder, you know, and I don't need a commissioned report to give me that data. I know who those people are. I know their families. And, you know, we can just help stem some of that. We're not immune to it just because we're a small town.
Sure. Got a few more minutes here. We've got Bike and Build. Anything else you want to mention here today on the program?
Yeah, this is a lot more energetic and fun. The same group that it's the same organization. It's not the same group of people, but the Bike and Build organization is coming back to Stafford County this year. So this is a national organization based in Philadelphia that organizes these cross-country bike routes. I think there's 12 in total, but only one that comes through Kansas. They go from one ocean to the other on a bicycle, stopping roughly once a week along the way to contribute their volunteer labor to some type of affordable housing effort. So last year they came to Stafford County, and we had a great experience. They helped us renovate the house in Hudson. They also painted a building in downtown Stafford and painted bleachers at the fairgrounds in Stafford. So I was aware that, you know, I had really invited them last year. I'd really kind of invited them repeatedly until they decided to come. And I was aware that brought them probably 100 additional miles of biking. You know, we were probably 100 miles out of their normal route in a lot of wind. And I didn't think they'd come back again. I mean, even though we had a good experience, that's a lot of hard biking.
Well, Ashley was working like a chain gang down there in Stafford last year. I mean, they wanted to come back, so you did good.
Well, the feedback we got was that the people on that route said that they felt like they made the most impact of the summer at the stop in Hudson, or in Stafford County. So they would like to come back, and we're thrilled that they're coming back. So they just bring a lot of energy.
And lots of questions. Such as, what do you do for fun out here?
Yeah.
This landscape is totally different to most of them. So
yeah, you can see things. There's no trees in the way. That's what I like.
Well, you know, it's fun for all of us. You know, they haven't experienced Kansas. They bring a bit of, you know, what was it, Hawaii to Pennsylvania to, you know, just all over. And I think it can kind of even bring some affirmation to those of us doing this work in the area that they see that it's worthwhile and are willing to both invest their time and their money. They actually fundraise as a part of this program. Each one of them that are participating in it have raised a certain amount of funds to be able to participate. Some of it pays for the costs of their travel, but a good part of it goes into a grant pool that they collectively decide how to disseminate. And for the last 2 years, they have supported Stafford County Economic Development with their grant funds as well. So it's fun. I enjoy the group a lot. They're good people, and they're coming.
You're popular, Ashley. I want to come back and work again. That's great. Guys, thanks for coming in today. Thanks for traveling up here and talking about all the great things happening in Stafford County, as always. And if you didn't get one for graduation, The Butterfly Effect, right?
That's right.
Great book. That's going to wrap up today's show. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we'll have news, sports today at the bottom of the hour. Chris Dave Ramsey at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Have a great day, everyone.